It's a me, Mario! What is up? How is it going, everybody? It is a beautiful, wonderful, magical day in the Mushroom Kingdom today because the Super Mario Galaxy movie is out. And just to preface this review, I loved it. It was great. I loved it more than the first one, by far. When the first Super Mario movie came out, and I'm not talking about the one from back in the day, I'm talking about the first animated one from a few years ago. When that one first came out and I went to the theater and I saw it, I thought that it was a good movie, but nothing really more than that. I did have problems with that movie. I did have criticisms of that movie, and I never made a review for that because I wasn't making reviews at that time. But I did have issues with that movie, even though I did enjoy it. I was never as high on that movie as seemingly everybody else. But this one, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, was also giving me concerns. I also was worried that I was going to have the same issues with this movie. I am happy to report that that's not the case, and I'm going to go into what those issues were that I had with the first movie and why I didn't have them in the second one. In the first Super Mario movie, I felt like there were some lines, some pieces of dialogue that felt like they were so dumbed down that it was directed to like a 3-year-old who couldn't just tell what they were seeing on the screen. And I'll put an example of it here.
No. Hey, that is not cool.
He got the blue mushroom!
But that kind of irked me in the first movie, and I know that these movies are meant to be for all ages, but I remember back in the day, back when I was growing up watching animated movies from like, the 90s, the 80s, those movies didn't treat kids like they were stupid. And I hate when dialogue in kids' movies or in, for all ages type of movies treat children as if they don't know anything, because media literacy is dying in the 21st century, and treating kids as if they have no media literacy is just going to make sure that they don't have any. But I'm happy to report that in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, there was no instances of that, at least that stuck out to me. The other thing that bothered me with the first Super Mario movie was that I felt like the pacing was a bit off at times. There were some moments, there were some parts of the film that I felt like went really fast when it should have not been so fast. Like, we just had to get through the dialogue, we had to get through the plot so we could get to the next piece without actually, spending the time that you need to spend on a particular scene, a particular part of the story. I'm glad that the Super Mario Galaxy movie felt well paced to me. And before I go any further, I just want to say this is not going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're planning to, just be advised. To be honest, ever since this movie was announced, I was not really super excited for this movie because a lot of the things that came out about the movie were things that I felt were a mistake. The first one being that this was going to be a Super Mario Galaxy movie. In my opinion, that could have waited till the third movie. I feel like there's more stories we can tell just in the Mushroom Kingdom that we probably won't get now that we've already jumped up to Mario Galaxy. But that being said, this movie's setting, this theme of the movie, and the story that they did for the Galaxy movie was really good. And so from that perspective, it's worth it. A good movie's a good movie, especially in a property that you love and you want to see done well. So even though I would have preferred Mario Galaxy to be the third movie of the Mario franchise, it is what it is. This movie turned out really good, so I'm happy with it. And that whole feeling that they're jumping the gun also applies to some of my other problems with this movie going into it. And that problem is the inclusion of some non-Mario characters in this movie. If you've been following this movie, if you've been on social media, you may have seen this movie has Fox McCloud in it, it has Rob in it, it has Pikmin in it, and one that wasn't in any trailers. Again, spoiler alert, you won't know until you watch the movie, but Mr. Game & Watch makes an appearance in this movie. And so I feel like the inclusion of those characters, while I love it, I also hate it.
I'm medium on it, if I'm honest.
Because on the one hand, I feel like we're jumping the gun. We only got one Mario movie that's strictly Mario. In the second movie, we're including all these other characters, clearly trying to tease some sort of Smash Bros. Sort of situation with this larger Mario universe that we're probably going to end up getting. But I feel like we could have waited for that a little bit. As much as I loved seeing it, and as much as it really works for this movie, that's what bothers me. It was really well done. And watching the movie, and actually having seen the movie, I don't really have any issues with it, but I just feel like they could have waited for the third movie. While I do think we're off to a better start after this second movie than the DCEU was, I feel like we're going into a similar situation where we're just trying to get to Justice League, and we're just trying to get all these characters in here as quick as we can without properly like giving everyone their own movie, or at least the franchises that need to have their own movie. Are we gonna get a Star Fox movie based off of this one? Like, are we going to get that next? Because if so, I don't mind as much them, you know, soft launching him in this movie. But if we're just gonna go into like a Super Smash Bros. Movie as the next movie, too soon. And especially considering there are a lot of fan favorite and big Mario characters that haven't been introduced yet, to put Star Fox and Mr. Game & Watch and Rob in here just makes it feel like we're trying to get to that Smash Bros. Movie without really taking the time to do as many films and as much as we can with the Mario universe itself. We could get Wario, Waluigi, characters like that, but we're not going to until later on. And I just feel like introducing these other video game characters into this movie without giving some of those big Mario characters just feels like we're rushing a bit. But like I said, that's more of a universe problem and not really a problem with this specific movie, because all these characters' inclusion into this movie made it really good and made it really fun. So it doesn't really bother me in the confined context of the movie itself. Something else that bothered me about the original Mario movie was that I felt that there were some actors who were cast to play characters that they weren't a good fit for, and they were cast solely because they were a big name that would draw attention. But that's another thing that doesn't bother me at all in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I think everyone who was a new addition to the cast fit their role really well, and everyone who I kind of felt was a bit miscast in the first one didn't bother me in this one. And I think that's just because I knew what to expect this time around and I knew what we were getting. And on the topic of the cast, there was a particular green dinosaur who was cast as Donald Glover, who I was really worried about, because I felt like we were going to get introduced to Yoshi with him just popping in and going,
okay, it's childish, can't be no homegirl, drop it like the NASDAQ.
But I should have trusted the process, because Donald Glover did a Vin Diesel as Groot, where all he says is Yoshi and makes little noises. And I love that. That's exactly what I wanted from Yoshi. And so it being Donald Glover, it doesn't matter. It could have been anybody. As long as Yoshi sounds close enough to Yoshi when he says his name / species and makes his little noise, that's all I care about. I just didn't want him to be a Donkey Kong situation where he's just yapping the whole movie. And the only reason I didn't think they were going to do that, and I thought Yoshi was just going to be a talking character, was because they cast Donald Glover. I thought there's no way they cast Donald Glover just to say Yoshi and to make little noises, but thank God I was wrong. It turned out exactly the way I would have wanted it to. And I couldn't be happier with it. Thank you to everyone who made this possible. Thank you, Donald Glover. Thank you, Illumination. Thank you, Nintendo. I think it kind of goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, just briefly. This movie looks gorgeous. The animation is really good, and the music, just like the first one, is incredible. Both of those things you could kind of assume just based on the trailer, just based on the previous movie, but I'll just leave it at that. It looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous. Let's talk about some of the characters in this movie. Of course, Mario, Luigi, Toad, Peach are all the same. Good, but I think oftentimes a collection of characters makes a story what it is. Although I would have liked the second Super Mario movie to just stick to Mario characters, Fox McCloud was a great addition to this movie. I know that I mentioned some other video game characters that were in this movie, but Fox McCloud wasn't a cameo. He was an actual character, and I really enjoyed his part, and I think it's a great way to start to tease the whole Smash Bros. Universe that is inevitably going to be coming. I just feel like it's a little early, but aside from that, I think it was really well done and his inclusion was really great. I really love the addition of Yoshi in this movie. I think he's exactly what he needs to be. He's sort of a character, but he's also sort of like, you know, a steed / an animal. He's all the things that you need a Yoshi to be. He's kind of an amalgamation of what he is in like Mario Sunshine. He's just mainly a steed. You've got some of that Yoshi's Island Yoshi mixed in there. You've got some of just the classic Yoshi from like party games where he's more of like a sentient being than just a steed. And so I think that Yoshi is a great addition to this story. He kind of fits into a lot of different plot points perfectly. And per this story, it just makes sense to have Yoshi there as opposed to Donkey Kong or anybody else. I think that with this being a Super Mario Galaxy movie, obviously you have to have the Lumas and you have to have Rosalina. And I think Brie Larson did a great job as Rosalina. I really enjoyed her in this story. I thought the visuals for her were cool, the display of like her abilities and all that. And something interesting that this movie did was make Rosalina and Peach sisters. And I don't know if that's a game thing or not. Someone please tell me if it is. I was unaware of that, if that is a thing, or if they just made that up for this movie, I'm not sure. I've only played the first Super Mario Galaxy, and I don't think there was any indication of that whatsoever in that game. So, you know, this would be news to me if this was from the games, but I'm pretty sure they made that up for the movie. But I think it works, because just based on the Mario games that I've played, there's not really any Peach backstory to tell you where she came from. There's not really any Rosalina backstory to tell you where she came from. You know, there's a lot of characters that don't really have a backstory in Mario games as far as I'm concerned. But maybe that's just my limited number of Mario games that I've played, because I haven't played a Mario game that's come out like post 2016 or something like that. So I haven't played a Mario game that's come out in the last 10 years. And last but certainly not least, I really enjoyed Bowser Jr. as the main antagonist slash villain of this movie, because I think that it just makes sense, a continuation of the story from the first movie, to have Bowser Jr. just step into that lead role. And with his mission coming to save Bowser and to destroy the universe, it just makes sense for Bowser Jr. It makes sense for the whole Koopa Pack. I think that really works. It's a natural next step from the first movie into the second movie. Bowser Jr. wasn't referenced or teased or anything in the first movie as far as I can remember, but he didn't really need to be. Whereas with a different villain, I think maybe you would have had to sow some seeds or maybe do a tease or something like that. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. I think a concern that I do have, though, with this being the Super Mario Galaxy movie as the second Mario movie, and with Bowser Jr. being the antagonist for this movie, I think that we're losing the opportunity or the likelihood that we're going to get a Super Mario movie with a non-Koopa character as the main villain. And what I mean by that is it feels like we're just going to get Bowser or Bowser Jr. or a combination of the two if we get a Mario movie 3. Whereas I would like to have Fawful, Count Bleck, the X-Nauts. There are a lot of great Mario villains that could be the main villain of a Mario movie if we allowed them to be. And I just don't know if we're going to get that opportunity. I hope we do, but I just don't know if we're going to.
Let me explain something to you. It's never gonna happen.
And especially with us trending toward this Super Smash Bros. Type universe, I don't know how deep we're gonna go into Mario lore and allow it to be the main story for a Mario movie, because seemingly we've got either a Smash Bros. Movie coming or a Star Fox movie coming or something, or else why else would you have Star Fox in this movie to be an actual character instead of a cameo? That wouldn't make sense to me unless we're going that route to have a movie for Star Fox or to have a movie for Smash Bros. Again, I hope that we can get a Mario movie 3 with a different villain other than Bowser Jr. I would really enjoy that. You can still have them involved, obviously, because a lot of those stories have them involved. All those stories have them involved, at least Bowser. And so I think you can go that way. I just hope that they do. I think something that doesn't make sense to me, though, is if we are going that direction with animated Star Fox, animated Smash Bros, seemingly this is all going to be connected at some point. Why is the Legend of Zelda movie live action again? I mean, I would have gone animated with that anyway if it were up to me. Obviously, you know, no one puts me in charge of those things. But if it were up to me, why are we not doing everything animated if we're going to try to do some amalgamation, some sort of Smash Bros. Type deal eventually? Why would we make live action and animated? Are we going to have an animated Link in the Smash Bros? Are we going to... I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I didn't trust the process with Yoshi. Let me just trust the process. There are some characters that are sort of missing in this movie that were in the first movie. I will say they didn't really need to be in the movie for the plot, but it's just interesting that we didn't really get to even see them. All of the human characters that are Mario's family, Mario and Luigi's family, we don't get to see any of them. We get to see Spike for a brief second. We get to see Donkey Kong for a brief cameo, even though Seth Rogen's not in it. He doesn't have any lines. It's just a brief little Jumpman cameo with him throwing barrels and whatnot. But none of the Kongs are in this movie at all. And so that's something that I thought was interesting. I don't know if it was just that they didn't need to be in the movie for the plot. They couldn't afford Seth Rogen because they had to pay a bunch of other new people. But yeah, they weren't in it. They didn't need to be in it. The plot didn't need them to be in it. But still, it's a little odd because at the end of the first movie, you thought everyone was gonna, be friends. But I don't know. Maybe not that close of friends. Just like in the first Super Mario movie, the Super Mario Galaxy movie has a lot of cameos, a lot of characters that you might recognize, some you might not. For example, you get to see Birdo for a little bit, you get to see Daisy in the post-credits scene, and you get a lot of other little tidbits, a lot of different characters that aren't necessarily named characters, but maybe you've seen them in a game, either as like just a random NPC in the background or whatever. There's a lot of those in the Gateway Galaxy, and I even got to see some characters that I didn't even know who they were, because this movie has Wart, who's the big boss of Super Mario Bros. 2. I've never played it. I didn't know who that character was, and so I had to look that up after the fact, but I thought that was really cool. And I do need to get to playing some old Mario games. I need to go through the classics. I've never played any of the classics, except for Jumpman. Now, I've said this many times in a bunch of different reviews. I do pay attention to review scores like Rotten Tomatoes. I do pay attention to those normally, but I don't let that impact my enjoyment of something. If I had looked at the reviews for the Super Mario Galaxy movie before I went to go see it, I would have been very hesitant. I would have been very down in the dumps. I wouldn't have been in a good mood going into the movie because I would have thought, this is gonna just be a disappointment. But I didn't, and thank goodness I didn't. I looked at the reviews, or the review score for Rotten Tomatoes after the fact. It's sitting at 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is disgusting and unfair, because this movie, to me, is on another level than the first one. The first one was good. I had my issues with it, but this movie I think is great. I think this movie is in the upper echelon of video game adaptations, which is something that you can also say about the first Mario movie, but this one is probably, top 3 video game movies of all time? That's not crazy to say. And the thing that I would tell people, whether I thought a movie was good or bad personally, I would always encourage people to go watch a movie, go watch a TV show, form your own opinion. You can take opinions from whoever, including me. You can take my opinion if you want to, but watch whatever it is, form your own opinion. There are some things that I absolutely love that people that I'm close to can't stand. There are things that I can't stand that people that I'm close to absolutely love. Even people you're close to can have different opinions on, film, on TV, all sorts of things. So really, it's one of those deals where you watch something and you might not expect to like it and you just come out loving it, or vice versa. There's really no way to know unless you watch it for yourself. Even if you know a bunch of stuff about it, watch it for yourself, form your own opinion. But, just for the record, this is a great movie, in my opinion. Since I saw this movie in theaters, I did not make a list of things I wanted to talk about, so I'm hoping that I'm not forgetting anything, or else that's gonna really bother me. So I think, for now, that's all I've got to say about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It was a great time. I am gonna go see it a second time, if that's any indication of what I thought of it. But yeah, if you want to help me out here on YouTube, liking this video, commenting on this video, subscribing to the channel, or checking out some of my other videos, all those things help me grow the YouTube channel, which I'm still trying to do. If you want to, you can click that little bell when you subscribe. I always forget to say that, so you can be up to date when I post a new video. I have social medias linked in the description if you want to click on those, so you can keep up with what I'm up to in life if you want to. Oh, and since YouTube added a polls feature, I've been meaning to try to figure out what I'm gonna do with that, so I'll just fit it in right now. If I were to go through and play some classic Mario games and upload them to the channel, would anyone be interested in that, or is that just something I should do by myself? Let me know. But yeah, until next time. Bye.
It's trash.